Israel already has plans to bomb Iran next month. It's basically there, but Trump waved them away. That's so funny. I can't believe that Trump is the only guy who gets to exercise power over Israel, and it's because he's so inconsistently bullish on Zionist fascism that they have to go along with what he says. Like Netanyahu can say that, you know, Biden and the Democrats are anti-Semites for not letting him blow up Palestinian children or whatever. But he can't really do that with Trump because, like, Trump actually is their guy. Like, Trump actually is their through line. Israel had planned to strike Iranian nuclear sites as soon as next month, but was waved off by President Trump. That's such a funny term to use. In recent weeks, in favor of negotiating a deal with Tehran to limit its nuclear program. That's so funny, man. Maybe we're not all going to get to die for Israel yet. Do you think it's because Trump wants the credit or something? No, I just think that Trump is, like, motivated by a very simple and stupid set of heuristics on what he thinks is good and what he thinks people want him to do. And he doesn't want us involved in foreign conflicts. You know? Like, he doesn't want this, like, intractable, because he ran on, like, ending the wars or whatever. Isn't Trump literally just seeking an Iran nuclear deal? Yeah, though it'll be a much worse one than Obama got, I imagine. We'll see. I just assumed he was lying. Yeah, but, like, again, it's an ego thing, right? Like, Trump doesn't care about Russia or Ukraine. What Trump cares about is his properties in Moscow and the fact that Putin is nice to him. And that when he schmoozes with Putin, it reminds him of when the good old days, when he was a young man, his dick worked, and he could use it on Little St. James, when he would schmooze with other, like, big power brokers. Like, he doesn't care about Israel or Zionism or Jews or Palestinians or Muslims. He might care about Muslims in the sense that he's, like, legitimately quite racist against Arabs, but, like, probably doesn't care that much. But what he does care about is the fact that Netanyahu is another big power broker he schmoozes with. He does care about, you know, the aesthetic of being the big deal maker who gets people out of wars. I think it's really just that. You know? It's kind of lame how simple it is. I think he's sincerely racist, if nothing else. True, but it's important to note that he's racist not the way modern fascists are. Like, he's not racist the way, like, a Groyper is. He's racist the way, like, a guy in the 1960s is, where racism to him is just a fact of life that you acknowledge and move on. It's just like, there's a difference between yeah, like a country club racist who's like, oh yeah, I have all sorts of views on different races and their predilections. Obviously, you have this race for accounting, this race for cleaning, this race is good at boxing, so on and so forth, you know? But it's just kind of like their life, you know? Not every racist made racism their entire personality. That's more of a modern thing. Because nowadays, in the modern world, in America, to be racist, you gotta kind of make it a big deal, right? Like, you've got to go out of your way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how being a misogynist used to be the default position, and every single man alive, probably, or at least most of them, was like, yeah, like, obviously men are better than women, but, you know, whatever. We're all trying to make it through. We're all trying to get through. We compliment each other, you know, I think dames are pretty, whatever. But nowadays, if you're like a self-avowed misogynist, you're like probably a like weirdo. Like, you're not just living with that info. You're not just like, oh yeah, I think that men and women. There are misogynists who are like that. There are millions of people who are like that. But there are also lots of people who are like freak incels who are making Substack posts about how rape should be legal or whatever. You get what I mean? I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Basically, what I'm saying is that Trump is racist, but he's almost incidentally racist. It informs his policy making, but it's not like an ideological end goal that he's driving towards, if that makes any sense. Somebody in the last stream said it's the difference between bigotry as a state of mind and bigotry as a desired end goal, and I think that's a good way of putting it, you know? Like, you can have people who are racist, but if you ask them, what do you want in the world? Like, what's a good thing? And they'd be like, well, I like, you know, freedom and peace or whatever. And you're like, but aren't you racist? And they're like, yeah, but I want, like, freedom and peace or whatever type shit. Whereas if you talk to a Groyper, you ask them what they want, they'd be like, well, I want a black girlfriend and also the eradication of all other races, except for my girlfriend. You all get the point. It's why racists of the former group are dealable while modern racists are unchangeable. Yeah. It's why you had all those like buddy cop stories about like the kind of racist white cop and the new like black cop or something, and the racist white cop would be like, "Yeah, the perp ran somewhere this way. We didn't get a good glimpse at him, but this is a black neighborhood, so I bet the perp was black." And they turn the corner and there's like a black guy just standing there, and the white cop is like, "Freeze!" And then the black cop is like, "Hold on, man, this guy looks a little bit shorter than the one we're looking for." And the white cop is like, "No, no, no, I think it's this guy." And then later they're having a drink at the bar, and the black cop is like, "Listen, man, you can't go assuming like that. It really compromises your police work." And the white cop is like, "Listen, I've been on the force for a long time. In fact, I've only got like 3 more days till retirement, but looks like I've still got something to learn." It's not like that anymore, you know? Nowadays, the white cop would be like, "I'm gonna do a George Floyd," and then they'd like dab and then tackle the black guy or something. I don't know. No goddamn class to these modern racists. That's the point I'm trying to make. Type shit. I don't know. What the fuck am I talking about? They ain't racist like they used to be. That's true. I mean, I'm not kidding, right? Like, I genuinely think that this change in mentality is one of the big reasons why a lot of liberals and a lot of progressives have difficulty dealing with the modern rise of fascism, because they don't understand that, like, the racism of their grandpa is very different from the racism that defines, say, people like Stephen Miller. Totally, totally like, not even comparable, really. People like Stephen Miller have to pretend to be like your grandpa to get your grandpa's vote. But they're not like your grandpa. They have very, very, very different ways of viewing the world. In a statement delivered in Hebrew after the meeting, Mr. Netanyahu said that an agreement with Iran would work only if it allowed the signers to, quote, "go in, blow up the facilities, dismantle all the equipment under American supervision with American execution." Dude, can somebody find me the part in the Old Testament where the God wrote, like, Jews are the chosen people, and by chosen I mean they're chosen to be cucks to America forever? What the fuck is this? Okay, like, maybe we don't need to have war with Iran, but like, America, can you like come with us, and like, can we still like blow up their stuff and like come over here? Can you, America, can you be like part and parcel to every conflict we get involved in? Can you give us money and weapons, and like fucking every deal at all times has to be like facilitated by you? Because all we can do is make war. We cannot make friends. Are we cucked to Israel? Israel cucked to us? Bro, it's the same thing. Check your Palantir stocks, okay? It's the same country. Some American officials were at least initially more open to considering the Israeli plans. General Michael E. Kurilla, the head of U.S. Central Command, and Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, both discussed how the U.S. could potentially support an Israeli attack if Mr. Trump backed the plan, according to officials briefed in discussions. This is actually very interesting. If I'm reading this correctly, like, the implication here seems to be Trump doesn't want war and wants to be a deal maker because he's a bigly deal maker. He's a big, wet, sloppy boy who doesn't want war because war is against his brand. He wants deals. He wants to be the deal maker. But Israel, parentheses, the American military-industrial complex, definitely wants military action against Iran, because you know what that would lead to? Another decade of interminable conflict and trillions of dollars spent. Like, blowing up Iran's nuclear facilities wouldn't be the end of it, obviously, because that would only spend a little bit of money. We need to spend lots of money, and lots and lots and lots of money, and that means years and years and years of non-stop conflict. Israel and Iran, and Israel and Iran, and neither side able to really get a hold of one another, but just throwing weapons and drones and special forces operations and missiles and blah 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 blah. So it's very possible here that Trump being like obstinate and old and insistent on being the deal maker, it might actually prevent a war from breaking out. Probably not. The military-industrial complex is going to get what it wants either way. So even if Trump personally is more of like a deal guy, they're probably going to push for that. I mean, like, read the paragraph. General Michael E. Kurilla, head of U.S. Central Command, and Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, were both like, "Sure, Netanyahu, I would love that idea to support you in blowing up Iranian nuclear facilities. Definitely not an insane proposal, as opposed to like striking a deal that Iran has been open to before." Like, They want it. They want it really badly. Wouldn't Congress just vote for a war anyway? Nah, Congress doesn't have anything to do with authorizing a war anymore. Then why not support Ukraine? It ain't about the MIC. Well, I would argue that there's a complicated variety of factors here. For one, Ukraine gets older equipment, not newer equipment, so it might not push the upper margins as much when it comes to the like MIC profitability. For two, you could argue that an intractable permanent war between Russia and Ukraine might set the stage for even more gains in the future. For three, you could argue there are other ideological concerns there, like the MIC is generally fascist aligned, so like supporting Russia broadly might pay out more in the long run. Like, why do you think we give so much to Israel? Fascist country, insane militaristic like ethno-state, expansionist, zealous, willing to die for the cause. Like, yeah, we support them. They're like a permanent source of war, you know? It's great, but at the end of the day, like Trump's personal idiosyncrasies determine a lot of what the administration can get away with. And it's true, they are easing sanctions on Russia. They might just give weapons to Russia. No. Yeah, it is true that having Russia and Ukraine be a permanent stalemate basically means that part of the world gets to be like a permanent testing ground. If you have a new weapon, new tactic, drone, training, whatever, you want to get people experience, just send them in there. Why do you think detachments of our allied nations' special forces often come along with U.S. military expeditions, you know, when we went to Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever else? Combat experience. Very important part of running a military. For every platoon of guys in a military, you need a few of them who have actually seen conflict, right? You don't want an entire group of people going in there and every single one of them has like, you know, boot camp in training, they've read the manual, but they've never actually been in conflict, right? That's not good. You need people with the experience. So, if you want people to get experience, can't you just send them into Ukraine? Like, just don't have them wear anything identifiable. You can send soldiers in there. No badges, no insignia, no wallet. Just go on in there, man. It's like, it's a free zone. It's literally the fucking Chernobyl. What do they call it in Stalker? What do they call it? The silly zone? Or they just call it the zone? It's open PvP. Exclusion zone. There you go. I know that sounds crazy and conspiratorial, but what I'm describing literally does happen. You know, like just drop like a few dozen guys across the breadth of a largely, but and we know this happens. You know why? Because this happens in other countries. It's happened in we've done it in Colombia, we've done it in Central America, not so much recently, but like we did have guys in Venezuela, we've had guys in Haiti, all across Africa, dude. Russia does this all across Africa. You want some guys with experience? Just go send them in as mercenaries, you know? If they get killed, whatever. You're not taking credit for them. They die, and then it's like, oh, there was a white guy who died in Sudan. Whatever. That's curious. No identifying markers, no way to trace it. Okay. Tulsi Gabbard was literally involved in covert ops in the Horn of Africa. It's a big business. That's what the Wagner Group did before Ukraine. I've heard people talk about this, and I think it's pseudoscientific, so I don't know like how valid it is. But my understanding is that like one soldier who's had experience working as a mercenary or like has had real combat experience, not like they've been sitting on a base for 4 years in Iraq, but like real combat experience, that one soldier is worth like fucking 20 regular guys. Because in reality, everyone's dumb and scared when they're getting shot at or in a difficult situation. So having one like freaked up motherfucker who actually can handle themselves, and you know they can handle themselves, because if they couldn't handle themselves, they would have died in the Congo or whatever. Yeah. Get spread around. That's why Ukraine would immediately be the strongest individual member of NATO behind the US if they were to join. It's actually something that a lot of people are concerned about, you know? A lot of Ukrainian soldiers are at this point very experienced, and they're also very radicalized. Like they are, like some of these people are rivaling like Finland in terms of their like, I will do anything if it means more dead Russians. So people are concerned that if the war does turn into a stalemate, or worse, a bad truce, you basically have like tens of thousands of extremely competent, radicalized Ukrainian soldiers with let's say, not perfectly tracked armaments, right? Like, you know, they definitely don't have an account for every weapon. We know that's a fact. Like, there are a lot of weapons that have gone missing in Ukraine. There's only so much you can do about that. It's an active war zone, but it's really, really tough. Things do go missing. Militias impending, basically. I mean, that's what happened. That's what happened initially. Yeah, the Azov Battalion was one of many hyper-nationalist, far-right, Ukrainian militias that formed in the absence of a collective Ukrainian military. It's just, it's, well, it could be destabilizing down the line if an adequate solution isn't found to the Ukraine war. Now, most of them are tired of shit from war and can't wait to forget about the military. Not all soldiers are like that. Isn't the Azov Battalion Nazis? Initially, they were largely an ultra-nationalist far-right militia. A lot of them were Nazis. But when they got incorporated into Ukraine's military, they started doing general recruitment. A lot of the people who were recruited weren't Nazis, but the overall tendency of the brigade was, at least up until more or less recently, still Nazi-esque. My understanding is that Azov got massacred, though. Like, a lot of Azov, they died at Mariupol. Like, I'm sure there are still members of the Azov battalion, but the original Azov, like, died in Mariupol for the most part. The leaders? Well, like, the founding stock. But, so now I imagine most of Azov would be, like, people who were conscripted after the fact. Right Sector is another militia group in Ukraine. Yeah, there's multiple. Azov's just the popular one.